So this question is a diagram question. I say that based upon the fact that we have this visual input here. Any question that provides some visual input, I'm going to call it a diagram question. Obviously, what we have here is a table, more specifically. So whenever I have a diagram, I like to pay attention to just understanding the information provided in that diagram before I start reading the passage. That's my preference. It is what I suggest, actually, but you can choose what works best for you. So for me, I'm going to look at this diagram and see that I have rows that look like types of flowers. 2 rows, so we have a tulip for the first row and daffodil for the second row. And then we have different sites, right? We have 2 different sites, site A and site B. And then we have our total row and our total column. So the total number of tulips, a total number of daffodils, a total number of flowers in site A, a total number of flowers in site B, and a total for all of it together. So let's read the question now. So the question says, the table shows the distribution of 2 types of flowers at 2 different sites. If a flower represented in the table is selected at random, okay, so I kind of know what's happening. So this test, whenever you see selected at random, usually what's going to come next is that there's a probability, right? And I see that word there. So in the table is selected at random, what is the probability? Now, whenever I see this word probability, I'm thinking fraction. And I'm thinking the numerator is what I want, so basically what the question asked me to find the probability of, over what I have, which is all of the possible options from which I choose what I want. So what is the probability of selecting a flower from site A? So what do I want? I want a flower from site A, given that the flower is a tulip. All right, so if I want a flower from site A, there are 66 flowers in site A. 35 of them are tulips. 31 of them are daffodils. I think what I want is represented by the number 35, right? There are 35 tulips in site A. That's what I want. Now, what am I choosing from? Now, let me just make sure I understand this. If a flower represented in the table is selected at random, what is the probability of selecting a flower from site A, given that the flower is a tulip? So given that the flower is a tulip, I think means that I'm only choosing from these 50 here, not from the 102. My reasoning is this wording, given that the flower is a tulip, means we already know that we're choosing from tulips. We're not concerned about possibly randomly selecting a daffodil. The only way that we would know that is if, I don't know, if there's like some type, let's think of it as a bag or a box that has only these 50 tulips inside of from sites A and site B. If I were to reach into that box to choose a flower, I know that it's going to be a tulip. I don't know whether it be a tulip from site A or site B, but I do know that I must be pulling the tulip out of that box. And that's what this terminology, given that the flower is a tulip, that's what that means. So here's our answer, 35 over 50. Of course, we never answer a question with a fraction in an unsimplified form. We could also write our answer as a decimal here. I'm going to keep it as a fraction. So I'm going to say 5 goes into 35 7 times, and 5 goes into 50 10 times. So our answer here is 7/10. And that is the correct answer to this question.